Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
Thousands and thousands of fans packed into a Nanjing stadium, each holding a cup of ice that somehow survived the summer heat without turning to water. Well, that humble cube is the star of a bigger story, an appliance boom that's now popping up in unexpected spots worldwide. Today we're looking at why Chinese ice machines are suddenly everywhere and what happens when manufacturers try to scale up without melting under pressure. Pun intended. We are live from our studios here in Beijing. This is Roundtable. I'm Steve Hatherley. Thank you so much for being with us today. And for the show, I'm with Yushan and Yushun. First up, picture a stadium in Nanjing, packed with tens of thousands of football fans smack dab in the middle of summer. Somewhere behind the scenes, a factory ran through the night to make sure every single one of those fans could hold a cup of ice by kickoff, frozen, clean, and still solid to the core despite a journey through heat that would melt an ordinary ice cube in just minutes. That single cup of ice is now part of a much larger story. A small, unglamorous product that somehow has become one of China's fastest growing consumer categories at home, and at the same time, a growing export success story, as Chinese-made ice machines start showing up in kitchens and campsites and everywhere else across Europe, Southeast Asia, and beyond. So, let's look at what's driving both sides of the boom, both domestically and internationally, and maybe we'll dig into some challenges as well when a market like this starts to grow and grow and grow. Yushan and Yushan, good afternoon to you. Let's start with the football stadium story, though, because, you get the ice in the stadiums, and the people there are enjoying them. It's cooling them down. But the story behind the ice cube in their hands is what it takes to get thousands and thousands of cups of ice from factory to fan still in its frozen state.
Exactly. And some of them are really just popular in a lot of these football matches, in concerts, in music festivals. And one of it is the well-known Suchao, the Jiangsu Football Super League.
Which is still going strong, by the way. I remember reporting on that when it was just kicking off.
It's becoming a kind of a annual thing, and people all now it is kind of a routine that football fans in that area will focus on. And then tens of thousands of fans showed up to watch that football match last year, I think, and to escape the heat with cups of ice. And one fan put it just simply, he wouldn't have made it through the whole game without the ice cup.
So to get it from the factory to the stadium, it's not like someone is, walking down the street carrying boxes of cups of ice. It's much more strict, a much more serious, unbroken cold chain. The logistics required are impressive.
If so, you're going to get it, thousands of cups of water because it will just melt.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I think the better part is that, at least for the Nanjing game alone, during Suchao, I think the event holder actually gave those ice cups to the fans for free, as far as I've read. So that's a lot of things. That's a lot of cups to be delivered into one place for sure. And keeping all of those ice frozen from factory to stadium takes a very strict and unbroken cold chain. So for 48 hours of microbiological testing after production. And then there's also they need to be stored at low temperature the entire time. And they have to be delivered same day in refrigerated trucks and never dropped off early or later, of course, and it needs to be kept at a minus 18 degrees Celsius to minus 20 degrees Celsius kind of environment, just in case it melts.
Yeah, well, you can't melt and refreeze it, right?
Yeah.
The quality changes there.
Right.
And then, of course, this is all done locally, so the suppliers matter because the delivery radius is about 300 to 500 kilometers, so nothing gets too far away. The stadiums, we talk about that, but that's not our main story here. It's kind of a fun little way to introduce it because the ice cup industry, the ice cup boom has happened nationwide. And it's not just with football fans, it's with everybody.
And this, the big brands moved in fast because a lot of these brands, they originally were not producing ice cups. And then they started to joining this area. Nongfu Spring, which is the
That's a
well-known
water company, right?
bottled water company, enters the market following design patents in 2023. And then Mixue launches a 1 yuan ice cup, opening the category up to everyone in 2024.
Mixue is not another water company, right?
No,
It's
it is
different.
it is a bubble tea company, and it is quite well known for its like very, very affordable lemon tea beverage. You know, a cup for probably 2 yuan, and you can beat the summer heat with that.
Feifei's favorite.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Ely and Mengniu, the milk brands, they launched their own lines. Luckin Coffee and Starbucks add ice-focused option too. Of course, they're coffee brands. They offer a lot of these iced coffee.
Sure.
So
but it goes back 3 years or so
Right.
then when this kind of started to grow a little bit. And these big companies, these major players figured out, oh, there's a market for simply selling cups of ice.
Yeah, and to be honest, at the very beginning, since 2-3 years ago, I was super confused on why these like Nongfu Shanquan, Nongfu Spring or Mixue, why they're doing this, just freezing up water and sell it at a higher price. But yeah, amid all the confusion and people talking about it online, sales still grow for 2 straight years and often doubling or tripling year after year. At the peak last year, sales were up more than 700% compared to the year before. And this summer, growth, it cooled down a little bit, but the total sale are still 17 times bigger than 2 years ago. This is according to Ma Shangyi retail data. So people, they found something else that's really interesting too, that people living in the first tier cities, so usually the most developed cities, the better developed cities in China, they now drink an average of 48 ice cups a year.
Only 48?
Well,
I was
annually
thinking.
speaking, we only drink ice cup during the hottest days, I suppose.
Yeah, it would
No,
I don't have
probably no.
I don't have well, why do you say that?
Because I also drink iced beverage and soft drink in winter. I just can't help.
I drink iced coffee in the winter too, and people look at see that's the usual reaction that I get. But you're probably right. I mean, of those 48 cups per person per year, a large percentage of those, I'm sure, is probably sold in the summertime. It goes beyond that. You said, Yushan, simple cups of ice, but it can get a little bit creative.
Yeah, sometimes it's just on the cup itself. Sometimes it's what's in the cup that's getting people's attention. Because beyond plain water, ice cups and ice bags, that's the traditional form that when it first came out, the shelf now also includes lemon, probiotic, and coffee ice cups, even themed moon ice cups. I have no idea what that is.
I haven't seen that one either.
Right, so usually the price run between 2 to 10 yuan. That's roughly 30 cents to a little over $1. And they're now a common sight in supermarkets and convenience stores too.
Oh yeah, you can see them everywhere.
Yeah,
now.
and previously, just not too long ago, during the World Cup, I believe, Hema, which is one of the better-known supermarket chain here in China, they delivered a football-shaped ice ball built with an ultra-slow melt formula that lasts over 3 hours at room temperature. So that's more than 40% longer than ordinary ice. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they timed it to the World Cup, and then weekly sales apparently tripled once the tournament kicked off. That's a different style, and you can find different styles of these, right? You can find the ice cups with the smaller cubes, but then you can find them as well. It's just like a giant ball. It looks like a
For whiskey?
or whatever.
Oh.
But looks like a giant golf ball or a croquet ball, if you know what that is. And they stay for a long, long, long time. So I think that's what the World Cup ball was shaped like, that one. The scale of the industry, too. shows how fast this is growing. So the national food grade ice market is now worth about 60 billion yuan. That's worth almost $9 billion. There are 42,000, almost 43,000 ice making related companies that now exist here in the country. Now, that number might not seem that impressive to you, but more than half of those 42,000 plus companies were founded in just the last 3 years. And that's the part of the statistic that stands out to me, is that this market kind of exploded almost out of nowhere, it seems.
And new companies registration just jumped 62% from last year alone. That's a kind of a 10-year record. And through all of these not that long competition of the whole industry, there are kind of, quote unquote winners and losers already.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Especially once the big players get involved.
So Yili, Nongfu Spring, and Mengniu, leaning on brand strength, distribution, and also capital, have pulled well ahead of other brands who are increasingly described as being the, position holding survival mode. I think that makes sense, right? Nongfu Spring, they are one of the first practitioners in this area, and they have the whole, I think, production line of sterilizing their water and cleaning their water and icing them. And also Yili and Mengniu, they're milk brands, so they also have the, I think, existed equipments for sterilizing to make these ice to be food grade ice.
Not only the existing equipment, but the size of the existing equipment.
Exactly.
So they can produce at scale almost from the get-go, right? There was a financial outlet that compared the boom in the ice market to the shared bike investment frenzy from a while ago, where you had a lot of capital flowing in. You had competitors that were multiplying, it seems, and then you get into the price wars when the big players want to compete with each other. And when that happens, when the big players start to compete with each other, then that's when things get difficult for the smaller players in the game.
Yeah, just they keep on leveling up the production efficiency and the delivery chain and stuff. That means that they are winning the majority of the market. So that sounds a little bit unfair to the smaller players. Like, for example, one Hangzhou area wholesale distributor, he told reporters that he shut down his ice cup wholesale business entirely this year because they're just simply, quoting from him, too many competitors. Channel margins keep shrinking. Our volume isn't big enough and gross profit barely covers the electricity bill. Doesn't feel worth it anymore.
Yeah, so that's when the distributors will get squeezed at both ends, right?
Yeah.
Because the manufacturers, they'll say the price will drop for the retailers, but it doesn't mean that their price drops to the distributor. It'll only drop by a little bit, but to the retailers, they're going to pay less. And then when you add up the math, then it's really hard for those middle companies to survive or get a piece of that pie. I have a cultural question, though, before we go any further, because when I moved to China, I repeatedly asked in restaurants where I would go, can I have some ice, please? Ice, please. Ice, please. I was constantly looking for ice. The first Chinese word I learned was bing. So, because it was, which is ice. Because it was the most useful for we moved here in the summertime, right? So, but I was told by some of our coworkers here that, Chinese people don't really drink ice water in restaurants, or
we do the quite opposite when we're outside of China. We always ask for, is there hot water, hot water, hot water, please.
Right. So what is there a reason for that, I wonder? Or is it just like a food culture taste preference?
TCM disapproval, I guess.
Yeah, this is just long been in the blood of Chinese people, and they think it is more comfortable for a stomach. So normally people would not have a habit of drinking iced water.
So part two of my question then is, so what happened then? What happened in 2023 when these big name companies started to produce ice cups and everybody started buying them?
I think we had this discussion before when, the ice cups started to have been all over China. And I think one of the reasons is that the popularity of the beverages, because they are now all iced, colorful with different kind of fillings and bubbles and everything. And people just love them when it is just both Instagrammable and also tastes good and maybe makes your favorite drink, even more flavorful because sometimes we will think that that kind of soft drink or Coke or soda is just a little bit too strong, too sweet, or too something.
Yeah.
But with the ice added in your cup,
it waters it down a little bit.
Exactly, and you feel better about it. I think that's why I like KFC's Coke, because they always add a lot of ice in there.
McDonald's doesn't.
They do too.
They do too. Yes.
Okay,
So
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not the bottled Coke, but just their.
But
Coke.
it's so funny because I get disappointed. Like I've been to coffee shops where, and I don't know if it's a Western coffee culture thing, where if you order an iced coffee, you want a ton of ice in there, a ton. The point is that you don't want the ice to melt before you finish your coffee. But I've been to some coffee shops where, they'll put in like, well, it looks like little tiny sailboats just floating on top of the coffee. Like
2-3 chips.
It feels like that, and then they're gone instantly.
You see, I think there's a deep cultural root in what we drink because here in China, tea is the original drink, if not hot water in general. So now that we've already mentioned this before, that how iced tea is a thing and how coffee is being accepted by more and more people across generations.
Yeah, coffee's a growing market too.
Then that's totally bringing this whole trend on people's preference on ice. So we can see now through all the beverage stores nowadays, they all provide more ice drinks than hot drinks during especially summertime. So.
Yeah.
And another thing is that if you think you got a whole cup of ice inside your cup, and then when you're filling in the drink, it wouldn't be as much as the whole cup of your drink.
Sure.
I think that's one of the reasons I specifically saw one like short video telling you this kind of trick. You ask for de-iced drink, which means that they will make the drink iced, but without ice.
Oh, they make
this
it
drink
cold. So then when you pour the cold drink onto the colder ice,
Yes.
then the ice doesn't melt as
And you
quickly.
have more drink in your cup.
Oh, that's a good way to trick some of the...
Yeah, that's kind of a value for money mindset people will have when they're buying beverages.
Yeah,
outside.
because the
Smart.
ice will take up a lot of space in the
Yeah.
cup.
A lot.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's lots of reasons people are into this. I think too. You mentioned it, didn't you, Yushan, a little bit that it's good for social media. You can upload pictures. It's fun. Sometimes these ice cubes are really pretty too, so they look good on camera. So it works in that direction too. What about? I just want to ask quickly. When you're producing ice at this scale, is it okay for the environment? Because we know air conditioners, for example, are bad for the environment. What about the ice production? Is that on the radar of the companies trying to make sure they're doing things as green as they possibly can?
I think, well, first of all, there is definitely an environmental cost because, like you said, producing and transporting frozen products requires energy for sure.
And refrigerated trucks.
Yeah, and particularly when the cold chain has to remain intact from factory to warehouse and keep that whole process intact and frozen. But in the meantime, we recognize that too. So policy-wise, China's own planning documents recognize that the expansion of cold chain, that very expansion of cold chain logistics needs to become more energy efficient and environmentally sustainable. So the country's 14th five-year plan for cold chain logistics called for a green and smart cold chain system and specifically promoted energy-saving technologies and new energy refrigerated vehicles. Now, I read about this before, that some university professors and scientists, they have been working really hard on actually physically speaking, how to reduce the climate impact of refrigeration in itself. And it's already being published, like papers being published and outcomes being used in modern refrigeration companies. And I'm not going to expand too much on how exactly that is done, but that's already the direction we're moving into.
I mean, it is 100% reasonable when
Yeah.
we talk about, the ice making and make ourselves cool will, of course, cause some environmental issue. But I'm just a little bit tired of whenever we talk about making human more comfortable, we will think about the environmental issue. Having the AC on, it is harm for the environment. Having ice cups is harm for the environment.
I understand what you mean, but I still think it's a worthwhile point because when you have an industry that kind of explodes like this, and the country is still, it sounds like the country, you said, Yushan, these decisions were made, a few years ago. It was on the radar from the very, very beginning. So I kind of like the fact, they're looking at reusable cups too, because these plastic cups, that they come in, those are harmful to the environment too. Of course, the collection and the cleaning and the disinfection of reusable cups does, of course, add to the operating costs, but there's a lot of supporting reusable packaging that's coming out through, and I think we've talked about that on Roundtable too, through different policies and industry standards and things like that. And that includes incentives for reusable containers. So, yeah, you're right. It can get a little bit tiresome because we're always talking about the environmental impact of something. But at the same time, if we can lessen it, when something becomes popular, then I think it's worth the attention. Are you guys fans, by the way? I haven't asked you that yet. We're about to talk about the ice machines, which I will be taking over the conversation for about
I know.
for about 60 to 90 seconds.
Steve was just bragging about it to me when he got a new birthday gift as a
What?
ice machine.
Game changer.
How so?
Game changer. Go ahead. No, I'm asking you first. You guys,
Sure.
you guys talk first. Do you buy the ice cups in the convenience stores or supermarkets or wherever?
I did. Oh, you don't?
No. I still clutch tightly to my kind of like a doubt from day one when I learned that this whole thing exists.
Doubt about what?
Why freeze water if you can just get cold water?
You're questioning physics.
Well, maybe,
I
but
mean, you mean like why you should buy one if you can just freeze it by yourself,
or
right?
even pay more to get a cup of ice.
I understand.
I understand. It's just
I feel that way when I buy a tuna sandwich in a restaurant. I feel like I could just make this at home. Why am I paying for this?
and salad.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of have to buy bags and cups of ice for some party purpose because it's going to be consuming a lot of ice when we invite a lot of our friends to our home and maybe drink different types of soda. And then we will need that kind of, especially when you're having hot pot, everybody's going to have an ice cup. So I buy them kind of regularly. And I don't have an ice machine. So I still just put water in the ice cube and produce ice on a daily basis.
Good job.
But daily?
Yes.
Then, bro, you need to be buying an ice machine this afternoon. I bought my first one a couple of years ago and my second one recently, only because the first one broke down because it was running like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in my house because I use it every single day. I told you already, I drink iced coffee even in the wintertime. So without that ice machine in my house, it's such a huge quality. It sounds so silly to say, but it was such a huge quality of life upgrade for me because I do make it all the time. So I agree with you, Yushan. Why I bought the ice machine in the first place is because I was buying the ice outside. And I thought, it's not really that expensive, but it adds up over time. So why not just get one of these machines?
So yeah, like that's kind of being popular now that in China. Does that speak out loud that a lot of people are buying like ice machines these days?
Yeah, it's happening in China and it's happening in other places too. The ice machines are becoming a hot ticket item.
Yeah, and a Suzhou-based ice machine maker has seeing rapid growth both at home and abroad. So this is not only kind of a China popularity, it's also a global popularity thing. It's opened a new factory just to keep up the whole growth of their sales. A major Ningbo manufacturer has been running at full capacity to shipping batches to Europe. And that Ningbo company's ice maker exports are up nearly 29% from a year ago. That's the stats from China Youth Daily. And Ningbo alone exported $400 million worth of cooling appliances to Europe this year.
So the cooling appliances wouldn't simply be ice makers, although that would be included, right? But you'd also be talking about fans and fridges and air conditioners. Impressive numbers for the cooling products in general. And the air conditioners are really becoming popular in Europe. We did the story about how hot things had gotten through the heat wave in Europe, and part of the story there was about air conditioning units and about how controversial they were. We talked about how European homes are not really designed to live in temperatures that they were experiencing, yet it's not so easy as just going out and buying an air conditioning unit, sometimes because of policy and regulations within a town or a city.
But at least for the past summer, we've already seen some of the Chinese brands being widely purchased and also imported by these EU countries. For example, Midea, their no installation Porta Split AC has sold over 60,000 units in Germany alone, with France and Spain placing emergency reorders too. And Midea is not really just the only brand case here, because this year Chinese cooling product exports to Europe overall are up 42%, with several factories booked through the early September already. So small portable household ice makers specifically are popular for European camping trips and garden parties. And China's Yiwu, the world supermarket in Zhejiang province in eastern China, their small commodities market has also been restocking constantly to keep up with cross-border e-commerce demands.
I watched a video. I'm pretty sure the guy was German, talking about that Midea, I forget the product name, the split something air conditioning unit. That's a really popular one in Europe right now because it doesn't require installation. You can just do it by yourself.
Do you need a tube to connect the machine outside with the outside window?
You do. So you have the inside unit and the outside unit. I had actually never seen anything like this before. Usually if you install an air conditioner, you have to drill into walls from the outside and stuff.
That's how they do it in China.
Yeah, but this particular one, half the unit is inside, the part that blows cool air, and then there's a hose that runs and it goes outside your window and you kind of seal off your window. And then there's an outside unit that blows the hot air out. So it functions completely as an air conditioner does, except you don't need to officially install it in your home. And that's why in Europe these particular types of units have become so popular.
Yeah.
That's why it is very popular, because of its portability, and also you can just put them on the floor, and that's why you don't need to stick them or drill a hole on the wall. And one of the reasons they're super popular. And this is and every market has its own kind of rules, like their energy efficiency, their materials and certifications and performance requirements all differ between Europe and the US and Southeast Asia, and manufacturers have to adapt product by product.
Sure.
This is how I think it's not the only manifestation of these ACs in Europe, but still, I think that's one of the reasons why they're so popular there.
Yeah, I agree. So domestically and internationally, China is doing extremely well with its cooling products. Were you surprised to see the growth of the ice industry here in China? I mean, I think we're not going to talk about climate change and hotter temperatures and things like that, but at the same time, I think it's not hard to maybe connect 2 points there. Things are getting hotter. People are looking for new ways to cool down, and this is just a great way to do it.
I am glad to see the whole industry that is popular, and I am even more glad is that people are realizing it is a whole industry with full standard, because I think now more and more people are understanding and accepting the fact that, okay, just a cup of ice can cost you more than a bottled water, because that may cost you more equipment and process. And then
which is exactly why Yushan has yet to,
excluding me on that group.
Yeah,
please.
she's yet to dip her toes into the market yet.
But I'm on the same page with Yushan on the fact that we're becoming more and more professional in terms of the R&D of the cooling machines, whether it's an ice cream maker or a cooling fan like that, a portable cooling fan like that, that we're exporting to Germany these days. So with the more and more matured manufacturing scale and also the fast exporting tracks that we have nowadays. For example, I read about how Haier, which is another major AC companies here in China, how they activated their global supply chain with emergency response mechanism, and they actually utilized there in eastern China's Shandong province. They utilized the factory there, and its manufacturing base in Thailand. They're all connected with the European train that can really deliver things really fast and efficiently. So that's the advantage of how this whole industry growing here in China is benefiting the rest of the world. But back to the individual side of things, as long as people have what they need, I think that's a good news for all of us, despite the fact that there are people like me who doesn't like cold drinks.
Yeah, well, people are just maybe getting a little creative with how they're enjoying their beverages. Growing market, though, that will probably continue to grow.